Welcome back to the podcast. If you guys are just joining in the broadcast, we just started a new live stream because YouTube was not pushing out the last show. So if you're just joining in on this broadcast, glad to have you here as we unpack some of the new information concerning the Epstein files. So for the folks that are just joining in, please consider liking the show. Let's get this pushed out. Let's get YouTube to force it out to the folks on the shorts feed and to really get people to join in on the conversation so we can get started on all of the information that we have. So we're going to be looking at this this data that we've been seeing on social media, and some of the information is new, some of it not so new. Some of the stuff that we've been seeing, that we've seen over the years, and of course the redacted stuff that we've also have seen unredacted in many of the files that we've seen side by side, from unredacted files from prior to this new law that was passed to release all the files. So let's see here. As we get folks in here, you see Larry Ludnick, Steve Bannon, also in the Epstein files. Yeah, they are. Does it mean that there's anything that they're implicated in anything? No. So say I just looked up Nelson. They said okay, so there is a number, 128.2 million views for the halftime show. Now, previous years, we've seen this before. Previous years, they've been at 130, over 130, like 133 and such. Those are the numbers that we've seen in the past. Skipping and lagging, plus the low numbers, but everyone, let's see here. I'm going to check out your I think you might have exited also. So here we go. We're going to, what's cope for reals, bro? Like, what is cope? I don't use that phrase a lot, but like, what exactly is it that I'm coping on? There's no coping mechanism here when it comes to the data. Data is the data. You can't cope with the data. That doesn't make sense. So you're saying, first of all, you're saying somebody lied, but the reality is they're still innocent until proven guilty. It's the same thing that Ilhan Omar is saying, dude. We're going to go over that in a moment. This might as well be an after show, huh? Waiting for folks to join in here. It seems like the guys that were just, guys and gals that were in here prior to the live show seem to be joining back in. And otherwise, hopefully YouTube pushes this one out. So yeah, I think YouTube might be doing its thing. All right, so we're gonna get started here in a moment on these files. So as we started from the beginning, what we saw with the files that people are seeing online, and what people are showing is of course, one of these documents that are being posted and circulating, going viral, of course, is the unsealed court documents detail how Trump called the police about Epstein in 2006, where he described Ghislaine Maxwell as Epstein's evil operative. Now, people are also talking about the fact that, well, Trump, put her in this nice prison, whatever the case that the left is saying. There are also people like Anna Paulina Luna who is saying such things like this. Maxwell is now claiming that she is a victim of Epstein. Meanwhile, she has been moved to a very nice prison. Now they're going to try to transfer her into a prison in D.C., and she does not deserve any special treatment. Child sex traffickers deserve one punishment. And we probably know what that punishment that she might be implying. Who knows? I don't know. But this goes to the scripture that those who seek to harm these little ones, as Jesus says, it'd be better that they would put a millstone around their neck and cast into the bottom of the sea. And that's the reality of how God feels about people who cause children to stray. And so only to find out he took his family to little St. James. Larry said he never say Epstein again, saw Epstein again. I think that's what you're probably saying. You don't care about the victim. Of course he does. Of course he does. All right. So this is what Anna Paulina Luna is saying. And so this is what she also says, because what we've been seeing from the left and from the right is the sort of narrative that they're trying to paint. And I think we've got to give a little bit of kudos to the show, that the Charlie Kirk show, and who they interviewed over the last couple of days. This was on February 4th, where they talked to a guy named Jay, based on the comments, that's why I'm saying that name, Jay Beecher. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. And he's basically having a different perspective based on the evidence, based on the interviews that he's conducted himself concerning the Epstein files. Now, he says it himself. He's not necessarily a Trump fan. He's not somebody that is just going to go full in on Donald Trump and just believing everything, that he does or says, or whatever the case may be. So let me play you this clip here of Anna Paulina Luna, and in just a moment. But what I think about the Epstein files here, just from the start of it, is that it's more of a distraction rather than action. While the Democrats can't seem to pin anything on Donald Trump, or really anything on other than his name being plastered all over, Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie and others are saying that there are 6 men who appear to be likely incriminated, which is interesting. But what's also interesting is that a few of those who saw the unredacted files are actually calling out some of these released emails that are actually sent by alleged victims, and hence the redaction on very viral emails. We're going to look at that here as to what Anna Paulina says. So let's take a look.
There are
let's take
a
a listen.
lot of viral mentions about the 11-year-old, 10-year-old, people sending these photos to Jeffrey Epstein. Did you uncover who sent those photos of little children?
I looked directly at the emails that have been widely circulated pertaining to the age 11, and I have it written down on my notes, the permission to kill email, the Snow White, the littlest girl was naughty, etc. And those ones were directly sent by alleged victims.
So the most disturbing and darkest and sickest emails were sent by women to Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, and some of them pertaining to, jerky, whatever that is. Yeah.
And so just quick follow. What is jerky? Like, what is that exactly?
I think that's the question. I don't know if it's like, and again, like going into specifically just based on what this is, I don't know.
It's a code word.
Context
It has to be a code word. Nobody talks about jerky like this.
Weird. Yeah, it's a code word and it's weird, but either which way.
We have beef jerky in the studio, okay? So, like, Klein and I know, I've never spoken to my team or anything. There's no correspondence to me talking.
So despite, what Benny Johnson goes on to say about beef jerky, whatever he's talking about, I don't, no need to play the rest of the clip, but what Anna Paulina Luna says, and even what Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie say, we're going to go to his clip here, just to show you what is being said on both sides, essentially. Now, Thomas Massie, of course, is Republican, but Ro Khanna is, we're going to look at a clip from him here also, too. But this is what Thomas Massie says concerning the same email as he's asked a question regarding that.
You wrote the email about the little girl who was, quote, a little naughty?
I did, and that was a woman that wrote that. And so it may be proper to redact it, and it may not be. I don't know. It seems like part of their algorithm for redaction was just to redact every woman in there, pretty much.
Yeah.
So we can't parse if the person who sent that was a victim or not.
Look, none of this is designed to be a witch hunt. Just because someone may be in the files doesn't mean that they're guilty. But there are...
This is a Democrat here saying this. They say it's not designed to be a witch hunt, but who have they been going? Who's the top person they've been going after this whole time? Donald J. Trump. This is the person they're trying to pin anything on, is him. They could care less really about anybody else. Everybody else seems to just fade away into the news media, and it's not really covered much, other than just to say that, they're covering both sides. But the reality is they want to pin Donald Trump on anything. even if it embarrasses him.
Very powerful people who raped these underage girls. It wasn't just Epstein and Maxwell, or showed up to the island, or showed up to the ranch, or showed up to the home knowing underage girls were being paraded around, and some of the sickening stuff in there about the violence.
And by the way, for those that are saying his name is mentioned 38,000 times, somebody's obviously over exaggerating by saying he's over there in the files over 1 million times. You say, Khanna just announced the other names. Liar, get the facts. Dude, I'm going there. Just relax, chill out here for a moment. We're just getting started here. So the 38,000 that they're talking about, again, even the Democrats, even CNN is saying, look, just because somebody's name is mentioned here doesn't mean that they're implicated on anything. Doesn't mean that they're guilty just because their names are here. But then you have people like Jasmine Crockett. You have people like Ilhan Omar, which we're going to get to her statement in a moment that she said on, well, I guess, informal statement on her personal X account. Nonetheless, still a statement. But here's Ro Khanna even saying the same thing. They're trying to pin it on Donald Trump, but he's saying, look, just because their names are here doesn't mean there's anything on them, anything regarding that. So despite the fact that his name is there 38,000 times, a lot of this is Jeffrey Epstein trying to make Donald Trump look guilty. We've seen this. We've seen the reports on this. There's nothing that you can get. There's nothing that even this guy we're going to look at in just a moment that implicates that Trump is implicated in anything. And so the 6 men that Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie say, which might as well go there now, that they say is there might be something to it. Right? So here's another post. Let me just show you this before we get there. We're just kind of trekking along here. This is Anna Paulina Luna saying this was written by a woman, alleged victim. This was on the 9th. This was yesterday. So she's saying the same thing on the Benny Johnson show. And so here's Ro Khanna in front of on the House floor talking about these 6 names here. And these 6 names, these billionaires, or rather the 1 billionaire, I guess, and these others, powerful people, millionaires, billionaires, possibly. But these are names that you just don't really know, right? Who are these people? The only people that you might know is Leslie Wexner. So here we go.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, Congressman Massie and I went to the Department of Justice to read the unredacted Epstein files. We spent about 2 hours there, and we learned that 70 to 80% of the files are still redacted. In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. When Congressman Massie and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice,
I'm sorry, I have to point out the fact that there was a deleted sound effect. Just kind of, I don't know if that was, honestly, it's kind of funny. It was almost on cue, right?
In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. When Congressman Massie and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice, they acknowledged their mistake. And now they have revealed the identity of these 6 powerful men. These men are Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikoladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World. Now, my question is, why did it take Thomas Massie and me going to the Justice Department to get these 6 men's identities to become public? And if we found 6 men that they were hiding in 2 hours, imagine how many men they are covering up for in those 3 million files.
But they basically said, this is what Thomas Massie said in the last clip that you saw, and even Ro Khanna was agreeing by their algorithm or however they produce these sort of redacted files that basically redacts all the women. So they don't even know. So whether what he's saying, if it's true or not, because he's going to try to make this still, he's going to try to point this to Donald Trump and the FBI. He's going to try to pin it on them because that's what he wants to do. This is, again, not about the alleged victims of Epstein. This is about Donald Trump. This is about getting him on something. Right, so they're just trying. So the House Oversight Committee released video footage from the Ghislaine Maxwell deposition this morning, during which she invoked her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The video clip begins with Maxwell's attorney stating that she would provide a full and truthful account of what she witnessed to and participate in if granted clemency by President Trump. Marcus added, some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. For example, both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. Miss Maxwell alone can explain why, and the public is entitled to hear that explanation. Maxwell then went on to invoke her Fifth Amendment right in response to questions concerning her role in recruitment, grooming, and trafficking of young women and girls while she was Jeffrey Epstein's companion. Again, to the comments that are saying, well, this is 38,000 Donald Trump. His name is mentioned 5 billion, 300 million, whatever. Keep going and making yourself look dumb, because this continues to show that this is never about justice with the Democrats. It never is. It's about taking down on Donald Trump. That's what they want. So it's just getting ridiculous at this point. And this is why we have to come on here to do this.
This is David Marcus, and I just wanted to introduce her and make a brief statement. So members of the committee, on my advice, Ghislaine Maxwell will respectfully invoke her Fifth Amendment right to silence and decline to answer.
By the way, that is such a bogus, hogwash comment, saying Ghislaine said she'll give Trump a pass if she gets a pardon. Dude, really? Really? It's just so bottom-feeding nonsense.
Questions today, even though she would very much like to answer your questions, she must remain silent.
By the way, Skunky, you saying, why don't we examine some of why and where his name is mentioned? Literally, these files that we've gone over, you can look back. I'm not going to go over this stuff because we've already gone over it. We can look back at the files that were supposedly, talking about Trump doing this to girls, slapping girls, and all this other stuff that were unverified claims that were even dropped. And we even have what we saw at the top of the show, which I'm going to refresh this page because it's not loading. Again, unsealed court documents detail how Trump called the police about Jeffrey Epstein in 2006, where he described Ghislaine Maxwell as Epstein's evil operative. So you're just going to continue to discount and dismiss everything that is being shown, only to, again, you're saying, go against your delusion. It's your Trump derangement syndrome that you keep feeding into by this left nonsense.
Because Ms. Maxwell has a habeas petition currently pending that demonstrates her conviction rests on a fundamentally unfair trial. For example, jurors lied during voir dire to secure seats on the jury, and the government promised immunity and then broke that promise. Newly discovered documents now demonstrate these facts conclusively. If this committee and the American public truly want to hear the unfiltered truth about what happened, there is a straightforward path. Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Only she can provide a complete account, and some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. For example, both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. Ms. Maxwell alone can explain why, and the public is entitled to hear that explanation.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence.
Dead man lives. Nobody with common sense is going to snitch on themselves, because the reality is, if she begins to say the things that she wants to say, what do you think would happen? And we're going to go on these series of posts concerning this. She's going to continue invoking the fifth here. This Ghislaine Maxwell invoked her constitutional right to silence this morning before this is her lawyer before Representative James Comer and the House Oversight Committee. Here's a statement I gave to the committee explaining why. On my advice, Ghislaine Maxwell will respectfully invoke her Fifth Amendment right to silence and decline to answer questions today, even though she would very much like to answer your questions. She must remain silent because Miss Maxwell has a habeas petition currently pending that demonstrates that her conviction rests on a fundamentally unfair trial. For example, jurors lied during voir dire to secure seats on the jury, and the government promised immunity and then broke that promise. Newly disclosed documents now demonstrate these facts conclusively. If this committee and the American public truly want to hear the unfiltered truth about what happened, and there is a straightforward path, Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Only she can provide the complete account. Some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. For example, both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. Ms. Maxwell alone can explain why, and the public is entitled to that explanation. Thank you. Now, it's also saying this was posted on X on January 21st, saying that the House Oversight Committee has set to depose Ghislaine Maxwell on February 9th, but her attorneys say in a letter to Chairman Comer that she will invoke her Fifth Amendment rights, and these are the documents here. If the committee proceeds now, Ms. Maxwell will invoke her privilege against self-incrimination and decline to answer questions. That is not a negotiating position or a tactical choice. It is a legal necessity. Testimony under oath while a habeas petition is pending would risk imperishable prejudice to her constitutional claims and expose her to further criminal jeopardy. This is why they want to do so. And so put plainly, proceeding under these circumstances would serve no other purpose than pure political theater and a complete waste of taxpayer monies. The committee would obtain no testimony, no answer, and no new facts. The only certainty is a public spectacle in which a witness repeatedly invokes the Fifth Amendment. That outcome may generate headlines, but it will not advance the committee's oversight mission. It will, however, require the unnecessary expenditure of taxpayer resources and impose burdens on the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons for no legitimate investigative return. And also, again, the type of this puts this sort of situation in a little bit of a pickle here, right? Because when you begin to see if Trump indeed pardoned her or did some type of, action to prevent her from being further investigated or, re-indicted, again, it's just going to look bad on President Trump. So I think, what's her name? Forgetting her name. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Trump has he has no, what's the word I'm looking for here? Somebody help me out here. Boy, it's slipping my mind. Let me think here for a moment. Slipping my mind. That he does, anyway, that he does not see it fit to move in any direction with Ghislaine Maxwell at all. So this is Ilhan Omar saying the leader of the pedophile protection party is trying to deflect attention from his name being all over the Epstein files. This sounds exactly like the commenters in the chat. Mind you, at least in Somalia, they execute pedophiles, not elect them. Does Somalia also execute fraudsters as well, not elect them? Ilhan Omar, classic Somalian fashion. She's basically calling for the execution of the president, in a sense, right? She's being a little bit wild here. This is typical of her character. This is who she is. This is what she does. And of course, this is on her personal, I believe, personal Instagram account here, not her actual Instagram account. Crazy. And we're going to go over that video in a moment, but well, probably not today, but it seems as though what YouTube is going to continue to do is they are going to continue to stop this stream from what is really happening with these Epstein files. Again, Rokana, Thomas Massey, these people are basically, shifting the narrative as to what really is happening. And like I said, I think we need to give a little bit of kudos to the Charlie Kirk show for having on Jay Beecher, who was talking about this stuff prior to any of these representatives seeing the unredacted files. Let's take a look at their clip here just for a little moment as we see what he was saying and really sort of the villains into this story. Despite him saying prior that this is not a dismissal of any of the nasty, vile, pedophile actions of Jeffrey Epstein. Right? So this is sort of near the end of what he begins to say here.
And she had an accomplice, I forget the name. And then that begs the question, what was Ghislaine Maxwell doing? Was she aware that these underage women were getting recruited?
Well, that's the travesty in all of this, is that the media just refused to report the truth because it doesn't fit the narrative. And it was Virginia Giuffre and a girl called Haley Robson, who Virginia had introduced to Jeffrey Epstein, who were going out of their way to find schoolgirls to make money. It was all financially motivated. They knew what they were doing. I have interviewed the mother of one of Virginia's victims. So Carolyn Andriano, sadly, was groomed by Virginia, given drugs, put on this life of prostitution, and eventually she was found dead in a hotel room, allegedly of a drug overdose. And so Virginia destroyed a lot of lives. But at the time, the Me Too mantra was believe all women. And the media were very adamant that they didn't want to deviate from that whatsoever. So Virginia's story was newsworthy. It was brilliant for journalists because here she is saying that she'd slept with foreign presidents, that she'd slept with a Prince of England, and just making all of these wild headline-grabbing, sensational claims that they didn't want to fact check it. They didn't want to fact check any of it. So if you want to look at the villains in this story, it is Virginia, it's Haley Robson, and a couple of others. So and Virginia's ex-partner, who I interviewed, and he quite casually just talks about how he went out of his way to find schoolgirls and girls to recruit because he thought, well, that's an extra $200. And there's no shame there. The police know about it. He's admitted it on record to me and also in his affidavits, his depositions. And yet he's never been prosecuted. Virginia has been acknowledged with full proof and has admitted that she recruited schoolgirls whilst she herself was an adult, but they refused to prosecute her.
So what we are beginning to see, again, this narrative that is sort of being portrayed by the media and the research that Jay Beecher has done, which he's posted a lot of this stuff on his Substack. And, what we're beginning to see, and again, what the representatives that have, the congressional representatives that have seen some of the unredacted files are basically saying the same thing, talking about some of these women of these, very viral emails that are circulating online as, well, it was some of these alleged victims that are, we don't know, but these congressmen and women are looking to, do as much as they possibly can. Do as much as they possibly can to, get the truth out there. This is Representative Burchett talking about who's also seen some of these unredacted files.
Congressman Tim Burchett has been one of many that we've wanted to speak to about the Epstein files. He's on House Oversight and joins us now. He'll be having some questions for the Clintons here coming up at the end of the month. And sir, it's good with these files. And it feels like we're going to actually get the full story at this point. You've got members of Congress now that are able to view everything. that has been released, everything unredacted. These are millions of pages that they can view unredacted. You've got Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie now saying that any names that are concealed, that they can see, that they'll just release themselves, like these 6 names that they forced DOJ to fully reveal this week that were redacted just maybe 48 hours ago. What are your thoughts on that and the optimism for the American people that we might actually get to see it all?
Well, I've said from the start, release it all. You know, I pushed the Biden administration. My own Senator Marsha Blackburn was denied by Dick Durbin the opportunity to put that out. The flight logs, he said they didn't even exist. You know, I've watched this thing unfold, and I'm disgusted with it. You know, The Democrats now are mad that we're releasing names that should have been redacted, women, because they wanted them out sooner. And, you know, you have some of the victims that want to be released, their names, and some of them don't. Because there's one girl who was in our meeting, she said, look, I just want to get to the bottom of it because I blacked out all this in my mind. I want to know what happened to me. And then I said, well, wait a minute, you want your name released? She said, oh, no, I do not want my name released. And that was the first I'd ever heard that any of the ladies that were mentioned in this thing did not want their names released. So there's an effort, you know, to push this both sides. There's been some errors been made, but you're talking millions of pages, and it's just there's mistakes are gonna be made. But I wish they'd just dump them all and let them have them. I'm sick of it.
I mean, really, what we want to see is just, you know, let the chips fall where they may. Release them all, but then there's like both sides. Well, you know, unredact the files. Don't release them without them being redacted. So it's like, well, again, let the chips fall where they may. Let them fall where they may and see what comes out of this. So far, what we've seen, as I said from the beginning, there's a lot of, you know, reaction to this, but no action. A lot of distraction to this, but no action. We're not going to see much as, you know, other than people resigning, other than people stepping down, and people just fleeing from the, you know, public sort of public image, because they've already damaged it by not only being in there and with some embarrassing photos, embarrassing emails. And so that's probably the best we're going to get. Straight up. It's probably the best we're going to get. And so it's unfortunate, but otherwise, we're going to stop this show here. YouTube is continuing to not push the show out for whatever reason. We're only getting just about 100 concurrent viewers at any given moment. And this is pretty bummer. This is a bummer because generally we don't, this is not typical for the show. You guys know that there's usually a lot more folks in here. So we're going to start and continue this on tomorrow with some of the, maybe some more information with these Epstein files. Of course, some of the developing news with the Guthries, of Nancy Guthrie, that there is a possibility that, well, they detained somebody where they believe that this person maybe has some ties to the kidnapping here. So what we're going to see in the next coming days and what this looks like, we don't know, but we'll be reporting this more and more. You're saying 300 to 500. Typically, it is around that number. And yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Feel free to subscribe, email me your thoughts, freedominicwillyoakshow.com, and we will see you here tomorrow, Lord willing. See you guys in the next one. Peace.